Hey BikeRumor fans, I'm Jake and we're here at ENVE and I'll be your tour guide today. Keep going, keep moving, you're good.
I went this way.
So welcome to ENVE everybody. This is our lobby. So we like bikes here. This whole building is built to hopefully sustain and support the ride lifestyle. So we like having bikes on display. Most of these bikes are people's bikes. So we will we'll walk through here and we will head back to see where the magic happens. Our first stop will be the machine shop. So the machine shop is where the process begins. Nothing happens unless it really goes through here first. So all the tooling is cut here, all the fixtures. Really the thing with carbon fiber is your end part is only as good as the tooling or the molds that it comes out of. So this is where the process to make a wheel starts. It's also where the process to create a frame begins as well. We cut the molds in here as well as create all the tools and fabricate all the tables and fixtures and devices we need to produce the products we make here. So our next stop's the warehouse. So the way this building was designed, the entire building was designed to basically favor the flow of our manufacturing process. So we're basically starting at the end here where you see racks of finished goods. But what we'll do is we'll walk through the warehouse and we'll go back to where we receive the raw materials. And then from where the raw materials receive and how it goes through the whole cycle where basically the raw material comes in, travels in a circle around the building and ends up back as a finished product. So right now we're going to step into the freezer. When we receive our raw materials, it comes in right through this loading door, right off the truck onto the loading dock here. All the fiber comes in on a refrigerated truck. It's really important with carbon fiber to maintain the integrity of the epoxy and the resin system to ensure that it is refrigerator cooled. Just like glue, if you leave it out at room temperature, or even worse, if you leave it in a hot truck or on a hot loading dock, the resin can start to cure and it can become brittle and dry and you lose the integrity of the fiber over time. So we're very careful to make sure that the fiber comes in on a refrigerated truck and then goes straight from the dock into this freezer. We keep it at about 0 degrees. So raw materials stored in the freezer. As you can see, we have a fair amount of it, but this is really not as much as it may look like. At the rate that we make wheels, these go through pretty quick. So as the product leaves the freezer, the raw materials come out, they're loaded onto these rolls where they're cut into panels that ultimately end up being trimmed into wheels or frame parts or other components. So these are cut tables here where we cut the panels of the raw rolls of fiber into the panels they end up being. We have vacuum tables here where we take all the air and laminate the different plies together. The materials are then cut into whatever patterns are required for the type of wheel or component that we're going to make. So the autometrics you can see working over there. So as the parts come off the cut fixture, they're disposition to be whether to be wheels or to be panels for a disc wheel like you see here. So here we're kitting together parts, and it's also our first, well, one of the first official QC stations where we weigh the parts. So after a wheel is kitted, it then goes to the layup room where the carbon is actually put into the molds that then ultimately get baked and cured. All the tooling you see here are the molds to make the rims. These have all been machined right here in the machine shop. So after a wheel gets placed into the mold, it goes through the wall here and it goes back into what we call bolt and cure, which is where we run the carbon product, whatever it may be, through the recipe it was designed for. So that's where we put it in the oven, inflate the bladders, bring it up to a specific temperature, etc. So this is bolt and cure. This is where raw carbon fiber gets baked and turned into a rim or whatever it's being made into. So this is the finishing room. Once a wheel comes out of bolt and cure and it goes through its initial QC check, they come in here to be finished. This is one of the few processes in our manufacturing process that can be automated or is automated. So the cutting of some of the cutting processes of the raw carbon fiber into the shapes is automated, and then we have this finishing robot which sands and removes the flash from the finished rim structure. Once the rim has been finished, it then comes out here to QC, where each rim is weighed and inspected in a final QC check. In this process, the rim is dispositioned, and if it all checks out, it then can go to wheel build. The wheel build stations are back here. So the way the process is set up is the wheels are laced, they get hand trued and tensioned, and after the tension, the wheel gets passed over to the decal applicator who applies the decal, who then passes it into a final packaging inspector where the wheels are loaded and ready for shipment. So we'll start in small parts where the actual tubes are laid up into the molds. So we shoot a little video in here, guys, so just carry on. So this is the small parts layup room. This is where we actually manufacture all the different components that go into the new custom road. So what you can see here, we've got a chainstay in production right there. And all these parts eventually end up in a custom road. So from here, once we have the tubes and everything assembled and ready to go, assuming we have your geometry and all the parts are made, we can now go over here. We can go this way. We go to the cut and ply room where we actually have the tubes, and then we load them into this cut machine to cut the tubes to the length. Just keep doing your thing. So here we have a variety of different tubes. We have a bottom bracket, seat mast. So each of these parts are made and they're loaded up into the machine behind me for a cut. So this is an automated cutting machine that takes each tube, you load it in, and it cuts it specifically to the dimension it needs to be for your specific custom fit geometry. There's a handlebar. After the tubes are cut, they're ready for bonding and cure. With all the tubes cut, they're now ready to be placed in the jig where they're bonded to your specific geometry. Excuse us. So this room currently serves as dual purpose. On this side, we have final assembly where we're actually hanging parts off of finished bikes. In the back corner there, we have several jigs where we actually bond. Basically, we're assembling all those frame parts, bond them, overwrapping the final assembly there. So after the tubes have been laid up and they've been cut to the specifications that are outlined in the geometry, the collection of tubes is then loaded into the jig where it's bonded. From there, it has overwraps that are put in place, and this frame is one that has been overwrapped, so this bike is ready to go to paint and final sanding, finishing, and paint. One of the cool things about this bike is it allows us, and the way we're putting this together, it allows us to maintain a lot of tube shaping and aerodynamics, but also still have the ability to customize each and every bike to the rider's specific fit. So that's the frame, and then with each bike, there's also the one-piece bar stem, which is also allowing for custom, to aid in the custom fit by having a two-piece and an overwrap here that allows us to basically make the stem and the bar width whatever you need it to be for your geometry. After the bike is here, we go into the final step, which is paint and finish. So once all the overwraps and assembly have been done in that room, it comes in here for sanding and then of course the final application of paint. With paint we have 4 different design templates, of which you can use we have a color palette of 38 different colors that you can choose from, and all these images on the walls are bikes that are ready to be painted. So what we have in here are just people's frames that are in various stages of prep. So once the frame has been bonded and overwrapped, it comes in where it's sanded. And then once it's been sanded, there's base coats that are put on it to seal the carbon for paint. And then once all that's been completed, the final color and clears go on. So over here, this is the finishing and prep room here, where they sand and mask and do all that nature. And then here we have a frame that's being base coated. After a bike is finished in paint, it comes back out to final assembly. So in final assembly, customers have a few different options. We offer what we're referring to as a chassis. So we call it a chassis, not just a frame only, because there's so much more to the bike than just what would be typically a frame only. You have the whole headset, the fork, the bar stem combo, seat mast topper, of course the frame, all the axles and hardware that are required to build the complete bike. So when we refer to it as a chassis, that's what we're referring to, is basically the complete bike minus the drivetrain. When you add a wheel set, it becomes a rolling chassis, and then from there it goes to a complete bike. All right, everyone, that's it. Thanks for checking out ENVE and the custom road, and thanks for stopping by, BikeRumor.